PSTD, we've been running for a couple years now in partnership, an advanced leadership program for senior leaders from Pakistan. And it's been a fabulous learning opportunity for me, and hopefully for them, around a little bit of that frontier of leadership. And that's a little bit what I'd like to focus on with you guys. Sorry, before we go there. Because it's about developing a coalition of the willing. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a talk in two parts. The first part, we're going to look a little bit more at what I believe changes a little bit right now, which is the fact that we need to stop focusing on companies. We need to start focusing on ecosystems. That in fact, what we've been doing is continuing running companies like we ran companies in the 20th century, but that these strategy processes are dead. And then in the second part, what I like to do is I would actually like to bring us into that new world of strategy. And I was just telling Fahad that I'm going to take an extreme risk because I'm going to make us play with two AIs dialoguing with each other to show you what a strategy room could look like in the future. First time I do this, I hope it's going to work, inshallah. But listen, Fahad said it's about learning together. Fahad said it was a learning together, and this is what we're here for. So we're trying to build this learning community. Yves Doz, a good friend of mine and a colleague and a mentor at INSEAD, once said, strategy died when we turned strategy into a process. And I think he's right. Because I think we used to think of strategy as something we did every year. You know, we would have a big folder like this. We would do these 5-year plans, have this annual ritual in these beautiful resort hotels. But come on, look around you. The world doesn't operate in 5-year cycles. Right? Right now we do product development in 5-week sprints. Suddenly we have 5-day crises. Yesterday in 5 hours, I developed 4 new projects. And yet we continue with these strategy processes. And fundamentally, I believe that strategy did not die because the world became more complex. Strategy died because we tried to process complexity instead of learning from it. And so, if these strategy processes are broken, what's the alternative? For those of you who've seen me before, you know I love this slide. This slide that shows that we probably grew up in a world where our capacity to learn was faster than the change outside. But I believe that this is probably around 2016, 2017, and now the change outside is faster than our capacity to learn. So as Fahad was saying, you know, we could hope that change is going to slow down. But that's not true. And so as what Fahad was saying is, how do we, even in our legacy industry, increase our capacity to learn? And the problem is that our old playbook is built on 3 failed presumptions, 3 illusions. The first one is predictability. We believe that if we study the past enough, that the future will follow a pattern. And yet, I would actually claim that no spreadsheet could have predicted ChatGPT. The second aspect is this illusion of control, that this group of people at the top could shape how the system is going to evolve. And then we see value is being created by other partners. Value is being created by startups. Value is being created by algorithms that we don't even own. And the third point is stability. We believe that if we developed a competitive advantage, then we could predict it. We could protect it, sorry. We could protect it. We could defend it and maintain this by just defending ourselves. And you see, although that these advantages have about the same longevity as our attention spans right now. So, strategy processes give us this comfort, but they don't give us a direction anymore. You know, strategy optimizes us for certainty. But my belief is that they're actually optimizing us into oblivion, into irrelevance. So, if the strategy process is broken, what's the alternative? And again, Eve Dawes mentioned that strategy should not be a process. Strategy should be thought as a competency. It's a living muscle, not a dead manual. And if we start taking that kind of aspect, we start saying, okay, so now, in his framework he calls strategic agility, it's got three movements. One is this ability to look outside and read weak signals faster than others. It's this ability to build this leadership unity, which is this alignment on a common output, on a common goal. And this resource flexibility, or resource fluidity, that Fahd was mentioning, which is this ability to quickly redeploy resources, talent, skills into a new world. And so if we start looking at that aspect, if these three things happen in common, then the ability of organization accelerates with change. And this is a little bit, but the problem is that you're going to have to manage these two curves. You're going to have to manage what Fahd called the legacy curve. This legacy curve is about optimization. It's about operational excellence. It's about focus. It's about cost cutting. And manage simultaneously this new curve, which is a completely different world. It's about exploring. It's about learning. It's about testing. It's inefficient. And we've got to manage these two curves simultaneously. Two different cultures, two different mindsets, two sets of competencies, which too often clash within our organizations. And by the way, it's not two curves. It's managing the next wave and the next wave, and I believe that these waves are actually coming closer together. Sorry, it took me a very long time to make this slide. When most of us the books that most of us read when we went to school saw industrial cycles over 75 years. The case studies we started studying in school were industrial cycles that were operating over 15 years. Our reality in our jobs is we saw that life cycles of products were around 6 years. And I was just a year ago, I was talking to the chief strategy officer of DuPont, who's mid-40s, and he said in his own career, life cycles at DuPont for products have gone from 15 years to 15 months. So we got to get ready for an exponential world. Let me give you an example. In this 1 liter of water, there's enough bacteria that no other life form can survive. These bacteria double every minute. I'm going to take this 1 liter of water, and I'm going to dump it in the Pacific Ocean. How long does it take before the Pacific Ocean is completely infected by these bacteria? 1 liter of water, for those of you who want to calculate in your head, was 710 million kilometer cubes of water. How long does it take before it gets infected? If I ask you the question, it's probably much quicker than you think. The answer is 119 minutes. Less than 2 hours. But that's not the interesting part. If the ocean is infected in 119 minutes, how much of the ocean is infected at 118 minutes? Half. Good, 1 person is not sleeping. If half of it is infected at 118 minutes, how much is infected at 117 minutes? Quarter, aha. At 116 minutes? 1/8, 12.5%. At 115, 6.25. At 115, 3 point something. At 114, at 113. Do you get it? In a process that lasts 2 hours, 6 minutes before total oblivion, you have less than 1% of the ocean that's infected. It's an anecdote. When was AI invented? '50s? What did we see? We saw nothing, 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 nothing. November 2023, ChatGPT. What's that called? 112 minutes. So the idea is, how do we learn? How do we learn? And we were discussing this last night. You know, what do we need to do a little differently? What we need to do a little differently is that we have to align people on what is it that we want to do together. What is it that common goal? What is it? What is our North Star? And then we have to discuss what are the values, what are the behaviors we expect from each other? What are we, what do we want in terms of a culture? And then the third point, which is, what are the non-negotiable rules of the game? Once you understand the goals, the behaviors, and the non-negotiable rules of the game, then we can talk about job descriptions. What is your role? How do we do things around here? And at the end, we ask you, are you in or are you out? But first we talk about what we want to do together and how we want to behave. Then we discuss about our relative roles and the processes. And at the end, we ask you, are you in or are you out? Right now, corporate processes are backwards. Congratulations, you got a job. Here's your job description and how we do things around here. And eventually, we'll do the induction seminar. It's backwards. It's backwards. And then we wonder why we have turnover. Let me give you an example. Adam is the CEO of APA. APA is an Australian company that does gas pipelines. And you'll see why he likes the Kodak story. I'm not going to tell you the Kodak story. Don't worry. Australia has moved to renewables extremely rapidly. In fact, in 2017, Australia would generate about 87% of its electricity with coal. Last year, it was under 30%. The problem is that you don't move electrons, electricity transmission, the same way as you move molecules, gas transmission. What's the problem with an APA? You have the gas transmission people who say, we're real people, we build real platforms, real pipelines, we don't play on our computers. And the electricity transmission people say, dinosaurs. You see the Kodak moment? Let me give you this data, which is actually data from 2 days ago. In Europe, we've had over 10,000 hours of negative prices for electricity. 10,000 hours of prices for electricity that were negative. Why? Because we have so much renewable that at one point we have to offload the grid. So what does most of Europe do? They pay Austria to take the electricity. They pay Austria to take the electricity. Austria uses this electricity to pump water up the dams. And the next day, they bring the water down the dams, generate electricity that they sell back to Europe. It's good to be Austrian. Why is this relevant for APA? Australia has sun during the day and wind at night. Lots of renewables. You know they're going to have negative. Electricity prices because they're going to have to store it somewhere. Australia is flat. You can't build dams. And Austria is too far. So why is this relevant now? Where are you going to store this excess electricity? You're going to create green ammonia or green hydrogen that you're going to store in a pipeline. So suddenly the dinosaurs become part of the solution, not part of the problem. But this is just the first step. Where do these pipelines go? They go to the northwest of Australia in the mining sector. Mining is 2.5% of all global carbon emissions. Suddenly, you have this green ammonia, this green hydrogen that's arriving up into the northwest. Now, you can burn it in your diesel engines. It's kind of stupid. But you can convert all these, at least the stationary engines, into fuel cells. Now you have to reline the pipelines. and you have to work with the mining equipment manufacturers, but suddenly you have an opportunity by coordinating this ecosystem to be a platform of innovation for 2.5% of our carbon emissions in the world. And this is where I believe that Pakistan has an advantage, is that you don't have legacy systems. You're a young nation. But see, now the firm is not the unit of competition anymore. Now the ecosystem is. An ecosystem is not a supply chain. It's partners together, using people, data, trust, and now AI. And the winners are not the ones who own the asset. The winners are the ones that orchestrate this ecosystem. And our roles as leaders now changed completely. Because suddenly, we're no longer a commander, we're an orchestrator of incentives, of interfaces, of learning loops. Let me give you another example. CHEP, they're a pallet company. They make pallets. 6 pieces of wood, 6 pieces of wood, 6 pieces of wood. No, they're special. They're blue. Why is CHEP very successful is because they basically have 330 million pallets moving everywhere in the world. What's their What's the barrier to entry? $8.5 billion of inventory floating around. Now, of course, these 330 million pallets don't move every day. But even if you have 10 or 20% of them moving every day, think about all the information that you start getting on the global supply chain. Now, Brambles has not been measuring where those pallets are. They don't need to. But suddenly they put some little GPS sensors on these pallets. Not for their business model, but suddenly they're able to kind of trace the global supply chain, see how fast pallets are moving, how quickly they're going to be delivered. Now, they of course know what's going from Nestle to Metro Cash and Carry. But actually Brambles doesn't know what's on those pallets. So what did they start doing? They started putting RFID chips on these pallets as a service to the customers, as a way of getting data and saying to Metro, hang on, Nestle is late, your package is going to be late. So suddenly it becomes a data play. It's not this customer relationship, it's powering an ecosystem. CONNEX cranes, I just was talking to them last week, 2 weeks ago. They make cranes in ports, they make cranes in factories. And they say, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of data on the pumps, on the movement, because it allows us to do predictive maintenance for our customers. And you look back at them and say, wait, you have a lot of data. Because when you see movement, it tells you containers are moving. If you see movement in a factory, it means your supply chain is moving. That data has so much more value. But it takes a different mindset. SKF, ball bearings. Cool. No. But if you look at a ball bearing, right, they're starting to bring this whole kind of aspect of the remanufactured ball bearings. Why? Three objectives. Number one, when you remanufacture a ball bearing, it's much cheaper. You're reusing 80% of the material, only adding 20%. Number two, it's green, because you have 80% less of CO2 emissions. And number three, it's quick, because you only do 20% of the work. But that's not the interesting part. If I'm remanufacturing your ball bearing, look, I can see the wear and tear. I can give you information about, hey, look, there seems to be vibration in your machine. There seems to be dust in the environment. And you can not only give this to your customer, but you can tell other people, listen, when you buy this stuff from these Barilla, for example, this is what tends to happen. So you're getting out of these bilateral relationships. I got this slide. I couldn't choose between the other one and this one because you see conic cranes on top. So this idea is about building ecosystems. It's saying that the more technology connects us, the more trust becomes a scarce resource. The more technology connects us, the more trust becomes a scarce resource. Because now, ecosystems don't run on contracts. Ecosystems run on confidence. That's why your leadership presence, your fairness, your transparency matters so much more than ever, because they are that trust protocol in ecosystems. And AI? AI is no longer a tool outside the system. It's the nervous system inside the system. It collects, it connects, it remembers, it predicts. If your AI lives, and I love what Fad said earlier, because if your AI lives outside your organization, that's where your memory is. That's where your DNA is going to be. And so let me push this a little bit further. We are moving from an ecosystem advantage to an information advantage. Tomorrow's most valuable companies will be able to connect minds and machines. Think of your organization as a distributed brain. What's your role as leaders? Now your role as leaders is to keep your brain curious enough to go see weak signals, coherent to build alignment, and courageous to start experimenting when we don't know the solution. That's leadership in the AI age. Leadership in the AI age is not about predicting the future, but learning faster than anybody in this changing world. So let me finish on the themes of Connect. Reimagine, reinvent, reconnect. It's about reimagining strategy. Strategy is not planning. Strategy is sensing. Strategy is not a manual. Strategy is a muscle, right? Reinventing leadership. Leadership is not about command and control. Leadership is about orchestration, making sure that we generate value and everybody's being heard in the game. Reinventing, reconnecting. Reconnecting technology, talent, and purpose. Because that's where the real intelligence lives. Again, Yves Dos says, strategy is no longer what we decide to do, but it's what we do to enable others to do stuff with us. Building ecosystems that learn faster than the world changes, with AI as a co-pilot, and with your compass as your purpose. Do you want to play? So now that we've killed the strategy process, I would like to bring it to life in the next 20 minutes. What's the game? We're going to play with your organization's digital twin. So there's a human. This is you, I think. There's going to be ChatGPT, who's going to pretend it's a human. You're going to choose somebody in your organization or an organization that you like and instruct ChatGPT to play that person. And there's going to be an AI journalist that I've developed for this who's going to be interviewing this persona. Now again, to Fahad's point, you're not going to put any confidential information in this because ChatGPT is only going to play off the information that's publicly available. But I think what will be interesting for you is that you will be able to see how close or not close ChatGPT is to the actual behavior, right? And what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that it's going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to give you access to my AI platform. I'm going to give you, you're going to take ChatGPT on your phones, or Mistral, or Gemini, or whoever you want to use, not Copilot. I'm just kidding. And what you'll do is you'll basically keep copying and pasting between ChatGPT, who is playing your leader, and the journalist who's interviewing your leader. So I'm going to go through these instructions slowly later, so don't worry about it right now. Let me just demonstrate how this is going to work. You're going to go to INSEAD.inloop.studio, and you'll enter this code called CONNEX 25, and you will have this AI journalist called Amal. I hope you appreciate. And Amal's going to interview the persona that you're going to come up on ChatGPT, right? So the way it's going to happen is that you'll log in. You can give your real email. You can give a fake email. It doesn't matter. Okay? And then you'll start the conversation, and this is what's going to come. Hi, I'm Amal. I'm your AI journalist. What I'm going to do with you is actually listen to your organization, right? Listen to your organization. I'm going to interview ChatGPT, who's playing your organization. And and it gives you instructions. So you choose a role inside your company, any role. ChatGPT becomes them. You will then paste their answer here. So you ask the question that Amal is asking in ChatGPT. ChatGPT will answer. You will paste this answer into my AI journalist, and the conversation goes like this, right? So for example, this morning I played with a little example. So I chose the dean of INSEAD. His name is Francisco Veloso. And so, let's suppose, so I told ChatGPT, let's suppose that we are Francisco Veloso, the dean of INSEAD. Oh, I should have used Adil. I didn't think about this. Here's the question of the journalist. What would be your answer if you were Francisco, right? And so the first question is, what's the one truth about working in your organization that people feel but rarely say out loud? Where did I get that question? I got the question from my journalist, right? And so if ChatGPT answers the one truth about working in, we are powered by an eccentric sense of purpose, but this excellence is super demanding. Look at Loic, he looks tired. So what do we want to do? We would love to have this mission and this stretch, but we would like to have an environment that keeps people healthy. Cool. I took this, copied it, pasted it into the journalist. The journalist answers. Oh, wow, that's interesting, okay? Here's the next question. I take this, what do I do with this? Copy, paste into ChatGPT. Got it? Do you see the pattern? ChatGPT then answers. The biggest challenge, ambition versus capacity, global excellence, purpose, etc. And you continue on. And at the end, it's going to summarize the conversation. But if you want to continue the conversation, you can. And eventually, my journalist is going to say, okay, shut up, sit down, let's publish. Okay? And that's when you go finalize the conversation. Please don't forget the green button, because then it gets recorded, and then out of all the answers in the room, my AI journalist is going to give us a summary paper. If you put your personal email, I will send you the summary paper and your own data. Okay? Make sense to everybody? Are you ready to have fun? Okay? So first, easier on a laptop, but you can use your phones. Go to INSEAD.inloop.studio. You should find this. Everybody got this? Yes? You enter the workshop invite code right here, CONNEX 25. If you don't know how to spell CONNEX, it's written everywhere in the room. You got it? Now it's going to ask you to enter an email. You can enter whatever email you want. You can enter a personal email if you want the results back. You can enter joe@joe.com, whatever. How much time do I have, Rebecca? 1 minute? I'm good, okay. Everybody good so far? And if you're there, you should arrive to this. To this. To, this. Got it? Thumbs up. Yay. Cool. This is exciting. I'm a little nervous, I have to tell you. So then what do? You press on this start conversation, and you should get this. And so you're going to copy this question. What's the one truth about working in your organizations that people feel but rarely say out loud? And now you go to another window and you open ChatGPT. Oops, sorry, I saw people taking pictures. Good? All right. So now you go to ChatGPT or to whatever Gen AI model that you want, and you type in, okay, let's suppose that we are, and you name a person of your choice. You can name yourself, you can name your CEO, you can name, a sales representative, you can name, it doesn't need to be in your organization. If you don't want to work on your organization, it doesn't matter. But pick somebody who's relevant for you. It could be Leonardo Messi. No, just kidding. And then you say, all right, here's the question of the journalist. What would be your answer if you were this person of choice, whatever? And you paste that question. Everybody got it? And now you go back and forth. Back and forth, copying this. Okay? Have fun. Let's see what comes out of this. We've got, I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. That way, at the end, to submit your results, right? The little green button at the bottom. Please don't forget to submit. Oh, where is it? This little green button, right, to finalize the conversation. And now, let's see. Where's the screen? This is live. 196, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 196 submissions. Let me refresh the analysis just to make sure. Now, what's interesting is you'll see, I'm not going to show the participant's name, but you see that we have actually for every one of your submission, I have a little case, right? So, you know, uncovering hidden truths. Uh-oh, system maintenance. Great. But so you have a little bit your executive summaries there, and this is the point that I'll share back to you. But look at the interesting. Let's look at the aggregate insights. So again, this is not me. This is not ChatGPT. This is you. The headline of the analysis is recognition is key to retention. So, no, come on. Fahad, you jinxed me. Let me see. All right, let's try again. Oh, come on.
Dr. Loic, if you want to try a VPN, maybe you might be able to access it.
I'll try it. I'll try it back at the end. It almost worked. I'll share with you the results, and we'll share it at the end. And I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to the server. But I think one of the things I want to kind of come out with is that what we've done together is a little bit the future, right? It's a little bit the future because I think, you know, most conferences we talk about the future. But I think what you just heard here, and we didn't see along, but is a little bit what your organizations are talking about in the future, right? These insights are not mine. They're yours. They're your organizations. This is actually the public information about what people are saying, right? And you can see that if you play with this a lot, you're able to actually get a lot of insights. So one thing I wanted to ask Fahad earlier is, are they doing an AI strategy, or are they doing strategy with AI? I'll get that. Strategy with AI is the future we're going, right? And we'll hear from Fahad later. We'll hear from our different speakers. But I think when we look, the most powerful message is that we've got to be much more ambitious. We can be much more ambitious in the system that we've done. And so one of the things that I want to really kind of get upon you, which is we need to develop new habits. We need to start with curiosity, not just certainty. We have to try to listen and get the truth before we build solutions. We've got to really change and lead conversations and not lead plans. And I think that's my biggest message this afternoon is leadership is not about knowing, leadership is about listening. And so I hope that if you go through the rest of CONNEX, you know, we'll talk about the talent matrix, we're going to talk about, you know, the AI paradox, the capability curve. What I would like you to do is really reflect upon this question as you listen to the speakers. Can we create spaces where people and intelligence can speak freely? So I would encourage you, number one, thank you, shukriya. Thank you for experimenting with me. I hope we'll all stay curious, that we'll stay bold. And by the way, this is the coalition of the willing where the ecosystems start now. Thank you very much for your attention.